It's been good to have you, and I know there's a lot more even with your story that we didn't even get to, so we might have to have a side B in the near future as well. So,
are there people who even understand side B that listen to this?
Well, let's try it. AJ, do you know what I'm talking about when I said that? Oh wow.
Not
Okay, so
we talked about being on air and the red light, and he may not even know what that is. He's probably thinking red light's like the therapy that they do now.
I'm thinking like you know how the record has like a red dot on you. That's about the only thing.
There used to be a red light in the studio or the booth. That's how you knew that it was live and recording. And side B refers to what's called a record. You know what a record is? I know you know what a record is.
Oh, like a vinyl. Yeah.
Sure, like a vinyl. Welcome back to the Ministry Without Hating It podcast, a ministry of Odyssey Haven coaching and counseling dedicated to the pursuit of answering the question, is it possible to do ministry without hating it? We have a theory that it just might be. I am Chad Garrison, and you are not Brenton.
I'm back, baby.
Oh, wow. Look at this. So good that we had brought him back for number 2. This is AJ. If you have ever listened before, we often reference him. He is the man in the chair, as we like to say, behind.
And I love being there. I'll say this as the forefront because I wouldn't say never. Again, this is my second chance, but it has been an honor to be the guy in the chair during this podcast. Wow. I have learned so much under you and Brenton and all of the amazing guests that we have. I've been able to apply it to not just my ministry side, not just my relational side, but just as life as well. It helps raise my own ceiling as to what can life and ministry coexist in. So it has been a genuine honor to be here. Absolutely.
Okay, you're the new co-host. I mean, you won just like that. Good job. So we probably need to set this up just a little bit because this episode's coming out right after we last month announced that Brenton had a big life change, and so he has not left. We haven't booted him out or anything like that. He called me this morning. We had this one with this guest scheduled since February, and he's sick. So the magic of podcasting, you can record these anytime and release them anytime, and so we're doing this in May. By the time you all hear this, it'll be months have passed and almost probably out of the summer coming out. And so that's what's going on. We will have something probably in the future just to talk about where we continue to go and his own life change updates, that kind of thing. But AJ, I called him and he's like, yeah, I can be your, your guy in there with you. And so here we are. So
here we are.
Here we are. And AJ, we just had a great conversation I know you got to just meet him today. I've known Ben for a while now, all the way back to even our district NextGen rep days that we did together for the Foursquare movement. And Pastor Ben Weiss, great conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think he broke the record for most bleeps in a podcast. So I'm really excited to edit this, post.
Yes, and so I'm not having to throw the explicit label on this. They're bleeps because we called them bleeps. He's not actually swearing. It's just kind of wordplay. It's kind of funny. It will make sense. So do not clutch your pearls and turn off. This is something you want to listen to all the way to the end because Ben really gets not just transparent. I think he gets vulnerable with us. A lot of the things that he's learned through some very painful seasons and how he's able to come out on the other side of healing. And then it's also the practical things that he's picked up along the way. Just a really, really great episode. I'm super excited for you all to hear it. And so we have talked enough. AJ, you get to talk again on the other side of this. And so without further ado, this is our conversation with our friend, Pastor Ben Weiss. Well, it's our privilege to welcome our friend, my friend, AJ, you just met him today. Pastor Ben Weiss, thank you for being here. Welcome to the Ministry Without Hating podcast.
Thanks, Chad. Happy to be here. And AJ, nice to meet you.
I'm just glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you here too, AJ, filling in. All right. Ben, for those who don't know you and are going to get to know you, describe yourself for us in 3 words.
Yeah, I hate these kind of questions, man.
That's why we start with them.
Right. Yeah. I would say specifically regarding like pastoring and leadership, transparency,
or you,
or me.
just you. Yeah.
Okay. Me, I'm married.
Okay. Married. Could you unpack that one for me a little bit? What is that?
Yeah.
What does that usually mean?
No, honestly, I love my family. So I would say family. Being a grandparent's been incredible. I got a granddaughter who's 16 months now, and you don't love your grandchild more than you love your kids, but they are more enjoyable. So if you've yet to be a grandparent, when you get to that experience, you'll understand you don't love them anymore. Truly, you don't, but you do enjoy them more. So I'd say family as one of the words. I'd say fun. I enjoy having a good time.
Okay.
I'm not always the leader of the good time, but I enjoy a good time.
Okay.
And I'd say friend.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why do you choose that one?
I'm very loyal. If you're my friend, you're my friend, and I will be with you to the end, whatever that means. So I highly value that in reciprocation, right? Like those who are my friends and are in that same capacity, it is a deep value to me.
Yeah, I resonate with that. Are you familiar with the Enneagram?
I'm not.
You're not? Okay.
My wife is, and she tells me I'm some number. I don't even know what number she tells me.
Well, I mean, loyalists. I mean, you're the 6. That's what I am, and I mean, that's a big deal. And when that's not reciprocated, it can feel like a betrayal.
Very much so. I know the only thing about Enneagram that I know is you don't want to be an 8-hole. That's all I know.
AJ, we might have our first bleep for the Enneagram. I've never heard that before.
I was thinking the same thing.
That's fantastic. Or we'll leave it in because it's so funny. That's awesome.
Maybe,
all right.
Maybe I'll do it for the intro, bleep it out, but then you have to go into the podcast to know what he actually said.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
Oh my gosh. So you and we don't normally do this, but it seemed like you had a different layer then. So that this is you maybe as the person, but what you said you were leading with like ministry. Are there different words that you would use to describe you for ministry?
I sort of just assume it's always coming back to that on stuff like this. I would say for ministry, I would say transparent.
Okay.
We, even at the opening of this, when we were talking before you went live, I told you can ask me anything. Like I really have nothing to hide. I'll answer really intimate questions if you want, because I think if we can be honest about who we are, whether struggles or celebrations or the journey, it's where Revelation 12 comes in. We overcome the enemy by the blood of the Lamb, the word of our testimony, and not loving our lives unto death. So I think transparency is equal to testimony. So transparency, I think, is one. Diligent, I think, is a word. I don't think anybody's going to work harder than me on our staff. And I don't say that as an arrogant thing. I say it as I want to lead by example. I don't want to be the guy who's golfing every day and requiring everybody else to be in the office. I've been that guy who was required to be in the office when the pastor was golfing every day, and I hated it. And I thought it was pretty hypocritical. Yeah. So I would say diligent, and I would have said family or loyal. We kind of covered that already, so I don't know that I would say that again.
Okay, so don't say it again.
Yeah, so don't say it again.
Yeah, don't do that.
You can bleep that out with the 8-hole.
Actually, I mean, you said you're pretty transparent. You'll just talk about anything. So tell me what you think of the current state of politics. I'm just kidding. Don't answer that.
I actually would be happy to. I have a pretty strong opinion, and it's not probably what you think it is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a dare. AJ, is that a dare? I don't know.
It sounds like a dare, yeah.
Chad, they're both wrong. Biblically, my issue is we need to take care of the foreigner. It's biblical. I also think we should build a wall and protect our country. And so it can be both and. And that is the primary thing in politics, obviously, at the moment right now. How do we handle that? And both sides got it wrong. I don't think it has to be one or the other. I think the immigration process is horrible. I've got a brother-in-law who had to walk through the immigration process. I know how difficult it is. And I also feel like there are those who shouldn't be here because they're violating our laws. And it's okay to deport people who are violating our laws.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm really not, I'm not afraid to talk about real things. And you can cut all that if you want to cut it all.
We'll listen back. I don't know.
No,
maybe
I was
not.
just going to say, I think you proved your point on that one.
Yeah, really. Yeah, really. So pivoting to some hard-hitting questions then, in your mind, what makes up the perfect sandwich?
Hard hitting. I actually being raised in Judaism. So my we're Jewish believers. My grandparents and my dad's side of the family are still practicing Jews, kosher and everything. In fact, my aunt lives down the street from Wrigley, one of the condos at the end, Lakeshore Drive. So when I get an opportunity to come back for a game, that's where I stay. And we always go to a good Jewish deli.
Okay.
And so the sandwich needs to have pastrami and corned beef. It needs to have pickles and yellow mustard with rye bread or wheat bread, but I prefer the rye if I can get it. Okay. And you have to have matzo ball soup with it. If you don't have the matzo ball soup, you're kind of killing the sandwich. You got to have both of them. So
wow. I have genuinely never heard anybody answer the way you just did with that. We've asked a few people, so congratulations. You win that award, whatever that one is.
Okay. It's a great sandwich, man.
It sounds good. It sounds good. You lost me at matzo ball, but yeah.
Have you ever had matzo ball soup?
I have. Maybe not good. I didn't stick with me.
Didn't sit well? Yeah, okay.
Well, it wasn't something I was going to run back to. Let's put it that way. But everything else on that sandwich you talked about, I'm hit and miss with the rye bread, but everything else sounds pretty good.
All right.
Great. Now that that's settled, so you kind of described this a little bit already, or at least some of probably this answer, at least that we would hear. But if your team were to describe your leadership style in one word, or maybe several, since you did a pretty good job giving us even 2 tiers for your own description, what would they say? And do you think that would match yours?
So because I used the word diligent before,
right.
You have to know I already asked the staff this question so I could give you their answers.
He did his due diligence.
I did. Yeah, I was doing my homework. So in staff yesterday, they said collaborative, servant, and loyal. Nice. So those were the words that they gave.
Okay. So what, if you could, why do you think, they said it to you.
Sure.
Did they tell you why they said what they said?
No. But
no. All right,
from the collaborative side of things, I understand the authority I have with the title that I carry, but I don't wield it very often. It's 2 or 3 times a year where I'll say something like, this is what I want, and I understand that I can have what I want, whatever that would be. When it comes to a programming decision or whatever, but I very rarely do that. We make decisions together. Our council would tell you we have never had a split decision. It's every single vote has been unanimous. If we are going to split, then we'll hold it till the next meeting and we'll pray about it and we'll come back together. And until we get to a place of unity, then we're not going to vote. So that's the kind of collaborative. The servant part is I'll do whatever they're doing. I'm mopping floors, I'm cleaning toilets, I'm working VBS, I'm helping at youth camp, I'm doing whatever. and
let's go.
I have no problem being part of whatever is going on. I don't very often just sit in my office and let them do the work of ministry. I'm out there doing it with them, kind of that leading by example we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And then the loyal part is just, we've already talked about. It's just part of who I am.
Yeah.
I have one question for you to kind of like follow that up.
Sure.
When you asked that question to your staff, were those some of the answers that you were hoping to hear, or were those more unexpected than what you thought?
Nice question.
I would say that you never know what people are going to say, and you actually don't know what people think.
Yeah.
We have so in the meeting, the one who said collaborative, ironically, is a staff member who started Sunday. So literally been in the office for 3 days now. They've been part of the church for 5 years, just hired as our youth pastor, and they were volunteers in the youth ministry for years before that. So we do have relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it wasn't a hopeful, like, collaborative, maybe?
Yeah, right. Yeah, like, please, I don't want to be micromanaged.
That's right.
No, I think they were probably what I was hoping for. I don't know if there are other really great spiritual words that I would have hoped, like theologian, or because isn't theologian just pontificator most of the time? So I think those are good. I think those are good descriptions that any pastor should want
Absolutely
to be described as. So I think they're good.
Well, especially if you try to mark yourself by even just the transparency alone. I think that's going to spill into a lot of what you've even said here, because I'm going to do things with integrity, and I'm going to do them well, or to the best of my ability. I'm not just going to wing it, that kind of a thing. And I'm going to be loyal to those that I'm serving with, because we're going to do this together.
Right.
Yep.
You're not above. You are basically hierarchical. In the hierarchy. Nope, can't. Hierarchical. See, still flubbing it. That's staying in. But like, you don't. I love what you said. You don't hold that over. And we actually even had a recent conversation on here where we talked about if you ever have to tell somebody that you're the leader, guess what you are not, right?
Yep.
And so I
taught
love that.
Junior high and high school for 4 years, and my first year of teaching, I yelled a lot. And at the end of the year, I realized I was yelling a lot. And the Lord showed me the person who yells the loudest is the most insecure.
Oh, wow. That's good.
And I just sort of made the decision. And the other thing that he told me was, if you have to announce who you are, then you really don't carry the title you're announcing. So I was very humbled by a bunch of junior hires that first year of teaching, and have tried to carry that into everything I do since then.
Yeah, that's good. And I'm sure I can just think of all of the real world, straight to ministry, practical applications you probably learned just within that little season right there.
Yeah.
What do you consider currently to be the ministry that you are a part of, or what is your role within that?
So I've had the privilege the last 14 years of pastoring Grace Community Church in Fort Worth, Texas. And whether you like the title senior pastor, lead pastor, whatever, just don't call me apostle or bishop. I don't like those titles. And I don't even really like the other titles. I correct people a lot when they call me Pastor Ben. Outside of the church, specifically outside of the sanctuary, I just tell them, look, my mom named me Ben. She didn't name me pastor. And I try to remind myself of this for identity purposes. I'm 49. Don't know how much longer I'm going to do this. I hope I'm doing it for another 10, 15, 20 years. But I've seen so many of my friends and mentors who, when they stepped out of ministry, pastor was their identity and not their name. And so I try really hard to separate that. But at the same time, I recognize I am pastoring Grace Community Church. And so I've been doing this for the last 14 years. I've served the denomination in different capacities, currently as an area pastor. And so I think my role in ministry is shaping the mission and hearing from the Lord and helping to shape the mission and vision for Grace Community Church in our Jerusalem and Judea. So when we moved to our location, we moved in 2019 from Southlake, Texas, which is about a 30-minute drive for those who are unfamiliar with the geography. We moved
it's just
here.
Big. Texas is just big, so I don't know a whole lot about
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
I felt like the Lord said to Acts 1:8, go into Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, even to the ends of the earth. And I had been doing ministry in youth ministry as well as senior pastoring at the time with the shotgun approach of, spray and pray. And
it's good.
He told me to go with the sniper rifle approach, which was to identify our Jerusalem and our Judea, our Samaria, and then the ends of the earth, and to focus on our Jerusalem and our Judea. So we live in Fort Worth, Texas. It's 1 million people. Our sanctuary holds 250 people. So we're not going to win Fort Worth, Texas. And yet that's what a lot of pastors would say, right? Like, we want to win our city. We want to win wherever we would be at. And I felt like I needed to be realistic about that. Why would we try to win Fort Worth? We're not going to win Fort Worth. We can't even hold our street, much less Fort Worth. And so we geographically identified our target. And so our Jerusalem is our church body. So if you call Grace your church home, whether you're a member or a regular attender, then you're part of the Jerusalem. Our Judea, I know you don't care about the geography, but I'll say it for the sake of saying it, is Beach Street. No, you do not.
Come on.
Beach Street to Interstate 35.
Hold on, I'm a loyalist. I care about what you care about. I may not remember it, but I care. All right. Now that we've gotten that off, go.
Sure. Yeah. So we live. Our church is on Thompson Road.
Okay.
And Thompson Road is 2 miles long. Like, the entire road is 2 miles long. It dead ends at Beach Street, which is a major thoroughfare, and then Interstate 35 on the other side. And so that is our entirety of our east to west. Our north is literally the major thoroughfare behind us, which is North Tarrant. And there's one row of houses between us and North Tarrant. So it's not like there's a bunch of space. And then the neighborhood across the street to the south, which is Summerfield, that is our Judea. And so our Jerusalem and our Judea get 75 to 85% of all of our time, energy, resources. And it makes our yeses easy and our no's easy. Our benevolence, all of those things. And on our street, the Lord orchestrated this for us. On the east side is the high school. Next to the high school is the elementary school. And on the west side of us is the junior high. And we're the only other commercial building in our Judea. Everything else is houses or apartments. And so this is who we hope to reach. We're not trying to reach outside of that. Our Samaria is the zip codes of our church family. So when you live in a metroplex, you're going to have people who commute. And so we have a number of zip codes that drive to our church. And so when they need help doing ministry and wherever it is that they live or where they work, that would be considered our Samaria. As well as I serve as the chaplain for the Southlake Fire Department. So they're part of our Samaria. And then the ends of the earth is what it sounds like. It's our missions emphasis and travel and whatnot. So when we moved, the Lord really highlighted we needed to focus on this. And so when you ask me, what do I feel like what ministry I'm part of? This is it. This is where we focus. We don't really take a lot of time and energy and emphasis beyond that.
First of all, I gotta say, I just love that. And even as you're saying, I'm just going, how can I take and just revisit everything that we're doing when it comes to that same kind of a thing, because it is so practical and so simple. And even to go back what you said before, I'm sure I've even said it. We're going to win this, we're going to do that, or I want to reach the city, or I want to whatever, and we are unable to actually define what that means outside of just like you said, the shotgun spray and see what sticks, so to speak. But how you broke that down, it's really, really good. I say all the time, to our team as well, we have to know what the targets are, so that way we know what we can celebrate, if we're being effective, where the fruitfulness is within that, right, and where we're going, period. And to be able to really articulate it like that, it's in a way that everybody can understand that. I just love that so much.
When we were in Southlake, so when I came to Grace as the youth pastor in 2004, we were in Southlake, Texas, and the church was at its peak, 315, 330. We had 2 services. And when I transitioned, the church was 225 people. And when I transitioned, we had 5 people, literally the number was 5, that lived in the zip code of Southlake that attended the church. And
wow,
when we when we transitioned, I told our council, look, I don't think we're going to be here forever. I don't believe this is our forever home. And so you don't want me to be your next senior pastor if you're married to this location. We had 5 acres that was empty, and on the wall in the foyer was the rendering of the incredible sanctuary we were going to build. That was a holy grail, and it had been there from before I was even the youth pastor. And I knew, I heard from the Lord that we weren't supposed to stay in that location, because I believe in answering the question, if you shut your doors, would anybody notice?
Yeah.
Nobody would notice. And so when the opportunity came available to move to where we're at, it was an easy yes, but it required us to identify what our goal was. So the last time I checked, which was last year, so it's not current, we had 145 people in our zip code that attended the church. So we are making efforts and entrance into our community through our targeted approach.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of sitting back a bit, to be honest with you, of just how, like I said, how simple, but it's not simplistic. It's actually very targeted and focused. And yeah, thank you. That's really, really good.
When we moved here, I did announce to our church family that our elementary school, Heritage Elementary, was going to dictate our missional emphasis. And they kind of looked at me funny, and I explained to them that they have the entire community coming there 5 days a week for 9 months out of the year. And we get them for an hour, if we're lucky, maybe once a week. And so they're going to know what's happening in the community before we're going to know what's happening in the community. And so if they ask us for anything, we're going to say yes. And so over the years, we were at Heritage last night doing dinner for all of the families. And any community event they do, we have the opportunity to come and we cook for everybody. So it's a depressed, income depressed community. These are the Title I schools for our area. And so a lot of need financially, a lot of need in food and whatnot. And so I've had the privilege of speaking at the 5th grade graduation. I've been asked by the principal, will you bring your church up here and anoint our walls and our doors with oil? Will you pray over us? I've had heart-to-heart conversations with the different teachers and administration. And it doesn't translate to church growth. We're not trying to grow the church through this ministry. We're just trying to love and serve our community. And they are the heartbeat. They understand what's happening. And so the Lord has provided for us incredibly. We take snacks up there whenever they need snacks. We resource teacher appreciation. We handle snack packs for kids when they're like over spring break. They asked for snack packs, which are like gallon-sized Ziploc bags with food in it that they'll put in kids' backpacks for the spring break, so they'll have some food. And we bring them 200 snack packs and anything that we've literally never told them no in 7 years. Every single request they've asked, the Lord has been able to provide. And I would tell anybody, any pastor out there, if there's an elementary school or a junior high or high school near you, start there. You don't need to start anywhere else, start there. But they're not going to trust you, so you have to keep showing up.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people who drop off cookies once and never come back. And so you have to keep showing up and you have to keep showing up. And once they believe that you're going to keep showing up, they're going to ask you for something. And it's a test. And you have to say yes. And if you say no, you're never going to get another entrance in. And so whatever the request is, big or small, say yes. Because if you meet that one, then there'll be a second request and a third request.
Yeah.
And so Heritage is leads our missional outreach. We've been praying for 7 years to get into the junior high and middle school. And next week will be our first time. They've asked us to come cook hot dogs for the 8th grade graduation. Nice. And so we have been trying to get over there. We've been trying to get in the door, and it wouldn't open. And this year they at the end of the year, they were like, hey, we need somebody to sponsor hot dogs and chips. Can you do that? Yes. The answer is yes. It's middle of the day. It's not convenient, but we're going to take 8 of our staff and volunteers over there, and we're going to cook hot dogs for 2 hours. And I'm believing that will turn into more and more ministry at the middle school.
That's awesome. I was going to say, so last year I actually we had some Foursquare meetings. All of our at least for our district, were at your facility in your area. And I'm remembering now the area around and seeing all of this. And so I do care because I've been there. But I do remember too that at least the space that we were meeting in was somewhat newer. Is that's correct?
Correct. Yeah. So when we moved here, the property was pretty dilapidated, had a lot of deferred maintenance. We were able to purchase it from Foursquare. And I'll leave that there for you to interpret however you want to interpret it.
Okay. Sounds great.
And
no bleeping.
Yeah. We took 21 months to sell our property that we were in South Lake. The Lord was not quick in that faith journey. And there were multiple times I thought I might get removed, not because of doing anything immoral, but because I kept telling them we really are going to sell this, and they had promised the money to somebody else, and it was just this inability to provide something. I said we had a buyer when we moved, and then the buyer fell through, but kept stringing us along month to month for like 6 months, and then finally we just said, look, we got to list it. And then COVID hit. Literally 15 days after we said we're listing it, the world shut down. And so when we moved, we were horribly in debt. We had $1.2 million of debt. Our weekly was like 12,500 needed. And we were bringing in about 6 or 7. We were negative 11 out of 12 months when we moved, and selling that property was going to be the answer. And we were going to build the building you referenced, Chad. When we moved over here, we were moving from 18,000 square feet to 10,000 square feet. And so we needed to have more space to function how we typically functioned. And so property didn't sell. we now had 2 sets of bills and COVID. And the day that the sale fell through, it was the last Wednesday of October of 2019. And we took everything we had to get moved into this property, because we were moving from a super nice property, well kept, up to date, to a much smaller deferred maintenance property. There was nothing that I would suggest was smart about our move other than obedience to the Lord.
Okay.
And we had to, like, the previous leadership had a flood. And if you've ever had to deal with a flood before, you know that they come in and they take off all the baseboard, and they drill holes in the wall, and they run their fans. And when we moved into the property, the baseboards were still off, the holes were still in the wall, and they were running church that way. And we couldn't move from where we were at into that. And so we took all of our resources to get the building somewhat up to our expectations, and then the sale fell through. And I got my church treasurer and my executive pastor at the time and said, "Hey guys, we're done. I need you to know that we had $10,000 left in our checking account, just to kind of give you. That's not. I know $10,000 is a ton of money. It's not a ton of money in a business. It's not a ton of money in your church. And when your weekly is 12,500, you can do the math. Yeah. So the Lord gave me an illustration of a boxing match. And I don't watch boxing. I understand sports. I understand boxing, but I don't necessarily care for it. And I said, guys, we're getting smaller and smaller. And I imitated a boxer whose hands are up and they're kind of hunched over, and they're taking body blows, but they're trying to protect so that the key parts don't get hit. And I said, we've been taking these body blows for the last 6 years, and we've just been trying to survive. And I said, I'm done trying to survive. And so I want you to know the last $10,000, I'm going to give it away. If there's any benevolent requests, if there's any programming needs, we're just going to say yes. And we don't need to survive one more week. We need to do what God's asking us to do. I said, you can't win a boxing match if you don't ever swing. Yeah. And so I'm going to start swinging. And from that moment, I didn't know that it was a line in the sand. I didn't know that it was really a holy moment or a spiritual moment. But literally from that moment, everything changed. And today we built a 10,000 square foot building. We redid our entire parking lot. It costs $3.5 million. We are completely debt free. We did not do a building campaign. We did not try to raise money to do this. We got $2 million we had $2 million equity from the sale of Southlake when it did finally sell. But you guys can do math there. That meant we were still $1.5 million short. Yeah. And the Lord brought it all in, and we remain debt free. And we have money in the bank. We'd never had money in the bank before. And so that decision unknowingly changed the whole trajectory of our circumstances.
Incredible. Wow. What a story. That's
the testimonies of the Lord and how I'm still pastoring are incredible. And I don't say that mockingly. Yeah. It is funny and I can laugh about it. But the reality is I shouldn't be here today. We shouldn't have survived. We shouldn't have been able to withstand the different body blows that we took over the years. The church went from 225 at transition to 100 within 6 months. So, the guy that grows the church like that is awesome. And we couldn't pay our bills, and leaders were leaving. I tell people today, not at Grace, but when I'm talking with people outside of Grace, and they tell me about a pastoral transition that's happening at their church, I'll tell them, don't leave. And they kind of look at me, and I'll tell them, I think and we over exaggerate everything in our lives. So I'm telling you, this is an over exaggeration.
Sure.
But it's close. I tell people everybody between the ages of 50 and 65 left the church when I transitioned. I was, I think, 35 years old, maybe.
Yep. I know that pain. Yeah. Keep going.
You can't have a healthy church if you're missing a whole generation gap.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
And
Absolutely.
they all left because I was the youth pastor, because I wasn't the former pastor, because I wasn't even a good imitation. I tried imitating the former pastor who was the founding pastor for like the first 5 or 6 years, because I thought that's what I had to do. And I was a really poor imitation of him. And once we moved, listen, God's not limited by address. It sure felt like he was, but he's not. He got us where he wanted us.
Yeah.
And then things started to change. And so I can stand here today, and I tell people all the time, I didn't go to preaching school. I didn't change how I preach. We didn't change our mission vision or our program. We are literally the same people doing the same thing that we were doing in Southlake, and now we're in Fort Worth. You tell me why it's working. It's only the Lord. That's it. There's nothing else.
Right.
And so there's no reason for me to be here today other than God has allowed for us and helped us sustain. There have been moments I was going to quit, and there's been moments that I wanted to quit. My daughter called me from Ignite in 2018.
It's the Bible college kind
correct,
of program.
Yes,
yeah.
Yep. Walking through Sam's Club, crying. She's crying. I'm walking through Sam's Club. She calls me and she's crying, and she tells me to quit she's begging me to quit because of really unfortunate circumstances that were happening here. And I couldn't quit because I didn't have the release from the Lord. And I also didn't want the others to win. I'm a little stubborn, and maybe that should have been one of the words. I'm stubborn. Or loyal. Maybe that's the loyalty part.
That definitely is. Yeah, it 100% is. Yes.
And I think there's something to sticking it out. So many people leave at the cusp of the breakthrough. So many people bail minutes before God's going to open the door of blessing. And I stick it out. The grass is never greener on the other side. It might seem like it. It may feel like it, but it's not. Either we're walking with the Lord in faith or we're not. Your faith walk's going to be faith here or somewhere else. And you're going to have challenges wherever you go.
That's okay. So I'm listening, and I'm almost curious on a couple of levels. Number one, how do you know, or how have you known? And you mentioned the release of the Lord, but maybe pull it out a little bit more. How have you known when this is not the release of the Lord versus maybe someone who's like, no, this is actually could be God saying it's time. This is actually proving that it's time. Like, how was that different for you? Like, how did you know? Because you've mentioned there's been a few times, as with probably anybody in ministry, where you're like, yeah, I'm done. I joke around on this that my golden parachute is Chick-fil-A. And so I'll just go work at Chick-fil-A. That's fine. But I mean, like, for you, how do you know the difference, and how have you been able to discern, and what would you maybe even pass along to somebody who's thinking the exact same thing?
Learn the voice of no.
Okay.
We as Pentecostals and charismatics are looking for the voice of yes. And we think the Lord leads us with yes, and there's times he leads us with no.
Yeah.
And it's okay to hear the voice of no. I was a youth pastor in New Mexico for 2 years with a different denomination. And the senior pastor was literally what we describe today as spiritually abusive, narcissistic, not some of the labels that we give people who we just don't like when they tell us no.
Sure. You've had enough bleeps for this episode, so go ahead. That's fine.
I'm going for the record, Chad. Well, I don't know what the record is, but
I think you've already got it. But keep going. Yeah.
Let me give you one example. We moved June 1st of 1998, first full-time position, and a month into it, I get sick. I get diagnosed with, I get sick a month into it. I don't have the health insurance that they promised. And so I won't go to the doctor because in 1998, pre-existing wouldn't be covered. And so I'm doing whatever I can to not go to the doctor so I don't get something labeled. But for a month, I had like a 100-degree fever, 99 to 100, nothing like 102 or 103, but enough to slow you down.
Yeah.
I had bowel issues, and we'll say it like that so you don't have to bleep another one.
That's good.
And I lost about 25 pounds. And I finally went to a nurse in the church who is actually an OB/GYN nurse. And I said, is there any way you can draw my blood and tell me what's going on? And I'm sure she broke all kinds of rules to do that, but she did. And it came back with hepatitis B.
Oh,
and wow. I thought, well, this is stupid. I'm going back to the big city. I'm going to go back to my doctor in DFW and find out what's really going on with me, because there's no way I have hepatitis B. My wife's the only person I've ever been with. I have no tattoos, no piercings, no blood transfusions. I've never done drugs. So like literally physically, there's no possible way for me to have this disease. And so I go back to the big city and they tell me I have hepatitis, and I'm at a complete loss. And I asked the doctor, what does that mean? And the doctor said, well, your wife's going to have this, and any future kids you have will have this. And wow. I was pretty devastated. We had one child at the time, and my wife was pregnant at the time. And I said, well, what do we do? And he said, well, you need to get on this drug called interferon. And I said, okay, what is that going to cost me? And he said, well, it's $100 a pill. Oh. And I said, how often do you have to take it? He said, every day. Oh. And I said, I need to tell you a secret here, doc. I can do math. That's $36,500, and I only make $22,000. So what you're telling me is I'm going to die. And he said, well, there's trials and things like that maybe you can get into. And I said, what's going to happen if I don't do anything for a few months and I just pray? And he said, well, you're young and you're healthy. Nothing's going to happen to you. It's not something that, kills you quickly or anything like that. And I said, okay. So we went back to New Mexico and we got with a gastro doctor and said the same thing, that we're going to pray and believe. And so that was July, and I had to go get tested in October. I had to go run blood work again in October. And they took me down to the city health clinic. So my family, this is a very arrogant statement. I'm acknowledging it's arrogant in advance. I don't feel this way today, but then I did. My family doesn't go to health clinics. We had enough money to go to doctors and specialists, and that was my experience growing up. And so it was very humbling having to go to a health clinic and look at the people that were around me, knowing what I know. And yeah. I don't need to describe it any more than that.
Yeah.
And the doctor calls me back and says to me, we're drawing your blood to see if you have hepatitis. I'm the hepatitis specialist here. And inside, I literally thought, I thought it came out of my mouth. I don't think it did, but it was that loud. You're not a specialist. I know what a specialist looks like. And she said, do you have any questions for me? And I said, no, I don't have any questions for you. This test is going to come back positive or negative or whatever it's supposed to say to tell you that the Lord's healed me. And she looked at me and said, Okay. And drew my blood, and it came back that I didn't have hepatitis. Lord healed me.
Wow. Holy moly. Wow.
And so that was in October. 2 weeks later, my wife had a miscarriage, and it was our first of two miscarriages. And I was 21. So we got married at 19. We had our first child a month before, I'm sorry, 2 months before we turned 21. And we're having a miscarriage at 21. We're in a different state, 6 hours away from home, making not enough money to do anything. And I walked into my pastor's office on Saturday morning and said, Crystal's having a miscarriage. I need to take her back to be with her family. Like, I don't know how to help her. I can't. I'm not emotionally mature enough. Husband, like, I don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
And for an hour, he yelled at me about how I wasn't committed, how I should just handle this. And, we just walked out the hepatitis stuff. She's literally in the middle of miscarrying. And for an hour, I get, dressed down by my pastor, who's supposed to be the one helping me, who's supposed to be the one comforting me and walking with me. And finally he says, you can go, but I'm not going to pay you for while you're gone.
Oh my.
And I said,
wow.
Whatever. I need to take her. And listen, I was asking to leave after church on Sunday and be back before youth ministry on Wednesday. It wasn't like I was going to miss worship service responsibilities. It was just going to be the office time. I shared that because from that moment on, I wanted to leave.
Yeah.
And I started applying for jobs anywhere I could. And I had a job offer the following November, so like a year later. Like I applied everywhere I could, and nobody wanted me. And it was a church of maybe 100 in the middle of New Mexico, and all the churches that I was applying at wanted somebody who had more experience or more experience when it comes to larger ministries, and couldn't get a job. And November of that year, I had a job. I got an offer, and it was back at our home church, and I'm taking the job. It's to the extent that I told my pastor, hey, listen, next week I'm going to go on vacation, back to Dallas. I have an interview. And, because I don't believe in going on vacation and coming back with a new job. I believe you should be honest and transparent about it.
Sure.
Whatever the consequences, to me, it's lying. I understand why people do it. And that weekend was youth convention. We drive up to Glorieta, New Mexico, which is beautiful. And I'm leaving. This is Friday, and I'm leaving Sunday after church to go back to interview for this job and take this job, although it had already been assured to me that I had the job. And I opened up the door of the school bus. Literally, you go and you grab the silver thing and you fold it to you, and the door opens in accordion style. And when I did, the Holy Spirit got on the bus and said, don't take this job. And I wasn't praying about it. I wasn't asking him. I wasn't even going to consult him about taking this job. I was just leaving. And I can say this now in humor, but then it wasn't funny.
Yeah.
I said, you're telling Crystal, because I couldn't tell her that I wasn't taking this job. Like her mother had orchestrated the interview. Her mother had orchestrated me getting this job. So it wasn't going to be just declining the job. It was rebuffing my mother-in-law, which wasn't the intention, of course. And I came back from youth convention, and before I left town, I told my pastor, look, I'm not taking this job. It doesn't matter if they offer me $1 million. The Lord just told me not to take this.
Wow.
And so we're still going to go on vacation because we're seeing the family. But I want you to know, you have my word. We're not going to take this job. And it was He didn't believe me, first of all. When I came back, he was surprised I didn't take the job. It was July of the next year. So we went there June 1st of 1998. November of 1999, I have this job offer. By the way, my wife has had a second child at this point, hemorrhaged in birth, and like, just awful things.
Yeah.
And he tells me not to take the job. And so I stopped looking. And July of 2000, I'm sitting on stage. So this is when you still had to sit on stage if you were a staff member. They had the big wingback chairs.
Oh, wow.
For those of you who are old enough to remember when staff had to sit on stage. And the best part was I was the only staff member. So I was the only person sitting on stage, which is really awkward.
Sure.
And in the middle of the sermon, the Lord said, "You can go now." Again, I'm not asking him. I'm not trying to get out of it anymore. I've resigned myself to, I'm going to be here for the rest of my life.
Sure.
And
yeah.
It's okay to hear the voice of no.
Yeah.
If you trust the Lord, like if you really trust him, the voice of no is as safe as the voice of yes.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, just walk straight till he tells you to turn. You don't have to ask him every time there's a street, should I turn here? 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 It's okay to just walk straight, because if he wants you to turn, he'll tell you to turn.
Yeah.
And so many people are asking, should I turn, all the time instead of just walking straight. And so how do you know when it's time to go versus it's time to stay? You keep walking straight till he tells you to go.
Yeah. Speak to, because I mean, and you've mentioned this a few times, and I know even just before we hit record, you were talking about even some of the other pain points within ministry that you've walked through, and thank you for sharing what you have already. I just know that's going to speak to somebody when it comes to listening for the voice of no. But there are times too where you're walking through, and it's hard. It hurts. It's painful. I'm sure you mentioned before you've got the scars, but I remember what the pain felt like. How have you been able to, as you walk through, and I'm sure, in ministry, it's either you're in it or you're about to be in it type of a thing. It feels like sometimes, and we're here to encourage and uplift. So there you go. But like, as you're walking through these things, I mean, let's just be real. Like, what were the things that kept you going, or that, like you said, kind of reinforces the faith steps that you're even in the pain, even though there's pain in the offering, right? Like,
Chad, I think the answer, a simplistic answer, is, do you know what God's called you to do?
Yeah.
And if you know what God's called you to do, we preach, at least we should preach. Joy has nothing to do with our circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Joy is found in the Holy Spirit. Peace has nothing to do with our circumstances, because we can have peace in the midst of the storm because the Holy Spirit is with us. And so the very spiritual, simple answer is, I can have joy and peace in the middle of this heartache. And it doesn't change how it feels, because joy is not equal to happiness, and peace does not remove the storm. And I can't tell you that I always felt the peace or I always felt the joy, but I knew the Lord had called me to this. And my wife says it best, so I don't want to take credit for this. I'm more afraid of him than I am of you. And because I'm more afraid of him than I am of you, it's okay for me to keep going in obedience to him. And
That's good.
What Chad's referencing is off air, or whatever you call a podcast. I shared
offline?
with him. Yeah, offline.
I don't know.
There was no red light at the time.
No, there wasn't. There wasn't. Still isn't, but that's fine.
Right. We had 2 different times, 2018 and 2024. Faithful ministry partners who were ordained within the denomination at the time attempt to have us removed. 2 different circumstances, nothing tied together. I had to walk through Foursquare's version of investigations in both of those to which we were completely cleared on every account. At least that's what was said to me. If anybody wants to do research later, if there's something I don't know about.
I've actually got a file right here.
Yeah. Right.
It says here,
as you open
you're clear.
book and it's the desk.
I don't want to Foursquare name drop on you here, but no.
Yeah,
anyway,
right.
Keep going.
The first time, let me back up.
Sure.
The real answer for Ben Weiss is I got fired from the job before Grace. And we were on staff at a megachurch, and our youth department had 7 staff members, some full-time, some part-time. I was the young adults pastor. That was my ministry job while I was teaching at the school that I referenced. And I was let go. And the whole staff was let go. It wasn't just me. And that was our home church. That was where we graduated high school from. I lived across the street in a cul-de-sac from our youth pastor. It was seemingly what you would want in ministry. It wasn't, but at the time it felt like it was.
Sure.
I was making $28,000 now, so I'm rolling in it. And we have 3 kids at this point. So I'm going into debt daily, working literally 60 to 70 hours a week, every week, trying to make that $28,000. And I got fired. And the senior pastor didn't fire me. He sent somebody, never gave us a reason why we were fired, just that they wanted to go in a different direction.
Wow.
And I can remember after the quote unquote going away party, I pulled into my driveway and I opened the door of my minivan and I closed it. And we had this incredible pecan tree that was probably 50 years old. So incredible canopy. It was like my favorite part of our property. And I can remember standing underneath this pecan tree and I slammed the door. And when I slammed the door, I began to just weep in a way that I could not control it. And it was a weeping of anger and a weeping of hurt.
Yeah.
And the hurt was, I couldn't believe they would do this to us. And the anger was, I couldn't believe they were doing this to us. And I said, not with fist raised in the air, literally, but figuratively, it was, they don't have the right to do this to me.
Yeah.
And 3 months later, or 4 months later, my wife, who I am incredibly in love with, wrote a letter to said church and thanked them for all they had done for us and how they had walked with us. And I found out about the letter through a flag football game. I'd gone back for a flag football tournament, and one of the pastors who I was close with at the time said, that was a really great letter that the senior pastor read this week at church. And I said, what are you talking about?
Oh my.
And he says it again. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I need you, I'm not being stupid. Tell me what you're talking about. And then he began to share with me about this letter that Crystal wrote. And I drove home from that flag football game, and in what was one of the worst moments of my life spiritually, told my wife, we will never forgive them, and you will never forgive them. And if anybody knows what Matthew 6 says, when they're listening to this podcast, it says that you can't be forgiven if you're not willing to forgive. And if anybody ever wants to talk about, is there more than one sin that can't be forgiven? Because we like to suggest it's just blasphemy. Unforgiveness is one that won't be forgiven. It literally says it. And so I went 18 months choosing to not forgive, intentionally, willfully. I don't care. I'm not going to forgive. We are not going to forgive them. And I was at a youth summit, or whatever they called it, in 2006. James Kraft was leading it in Anaheim, and Ron Pinkston preached a message about not being willing to forgive his youth pastor. And I was so convicted. He preached the message to me. I don't know how many people were there. I mean, we were at the Anaheim Convention Center. I mean, there was a bunch of people, thousands of people. But he preached the message to me. And I came home and repented to everybody I could repent to. And one of the things he said was, forgiveness is not saying what they did was okay. Forgiveness is giving it to the Lord, letting the Lord deal with it.
Yeah.
Over the next 10 years, I developed a theology, and you can't see me smiling if you're listening to this, so this is tongue-in-cheek theology, that there's levels of healing, or levels of forgiveness. Sorry, not levels of healing, levels of forgiveness.
Sure.
There's the I forgive you and I give it to the Lord. There's the I forgive you and I can be in the same room as you, but don't talk to me. There's the I forgive you and we can talk about the Cubs or the weather, but that's it. And then there's the forgive you and we can sit at a meal together. And the reality is those are all levels of healing. There's not forgiveness.
Sure.
Forgiveness is literally giving it to the Lord. It took another 10 years for me to be healed from that. And so when I read the part about you can't be forgiven if you don't forgive, there was a decision that was made that day that I would never do this again. And so when I walked through 2018 and when I walked through 2024, I made the decision I wasn't going to walk in unforgiveness because of what happened in 2004 when I was fired.
Yeah.
The pain was incredible. And I'm not going to ever suggest that it wasn't. But I learned I can't live that way. How do you stay in the middle of pain? You actually believe the word of God and you stay true to what he's called you to do. If God called you to make money in ministry, then you're going to be miserable because he didn't. If God called you to pastor a mega church, he probably didn't. That's probably your desire. He might. It might be something that happens. So I know this is what God's called me to do. So how do you get through those heartaches? You keep walking straight till he tells you to turn. And
this has been really, really, really good. And I kind of feel like I want to, as we're landing the plane, and we'd like to even talk about hope ahead. But maybe in light of all the things that you have walked through and you've learned and navigated through, how have you been able to, and this is the hope for those maybe even listening and going, that sounds just like me, or, could be me. How have you been able to really find healing? You mentioned that word a few times, as you move forward.
So I had shared earlier, I went to 18 months or whatever it was with choosing to not forgive, and then was really confronted by the word of God through Ron Pigston, came back and started making changes in my life. But there was always this pain there. And because it was our home church, we were never going to be able to just never go back. Weddings were there, funerals were there, baby dedications were there. My wife's grandmother's 90th birthday's there. Like, we have to go back and we have to interact with this group of people. And we had been invited for 3 years in a row, 2014, 15, and 16, to come to the senior pastor's pastoral retreat where he wants to invest in young ministers. And I declined. I wanted nothing to do. I don't need to go to something like that.
Sure.
And the third year, my wife said, "We're going to this." And I said, "We're not going to this." And she said, "No, we are going to this." I said, "I don't think you understand, Crystal. We are not going to this. I have no desire to go."
Yeah.
And she said, "No, we are. And I've already registered us. And you need to take the time off of work because you're going." And so we went. And I told you the voice of the Lord sounds like, or the voice of the Holy Spirit sounds like your spouse.
Yeah.
We get to this retreat and I'm really uncomfortable. And it starts on Super Bowl Sunday. So it starts with the gathering of watching the game together.
Okay. I was going to say, and that alone would be like, no, we're not going.
Right. And so there are people there that I'm still friends with and that I truly enjoy being with. So I'm just kind of sticking with them. And then the next day the classes and the trainings, teachings, whatever start. And we get to the middle of the day and we have a restroom break. And so we're in the restroom, and he asks me, "Are you enjoying the time here?" And my answer was, "No, I'm not." And he looked at me because he was shocked that I said that. And I said his name, and I said, "Look, I don't want to be here. Crystal told me we have to come. And so I'm here because she wants to be here." And he said, "Why don't you want to be here?" And I said, "You hurt me. You really cut me deep." And he said, "Well, do you want to talk about it?" I said, "Yeah, that'd be great." And so the four of us, him and his wife and me and Crystal, at the end of that Monday, sat around a table and we talked. And he said, "So what's going on?" And I said, "Look, you fired me and I still don't even know why. And you didn't even come and talk to me. We were just let go. And my friends were let go. And I would have spent the rest of my life here." And he looked at me and he said, "I don't remember." And I said, "Huh?" He says, "Yeah, I don't remember." And I said, "Okay, well then I guess there's nothing left to talk about." And we kind of left. And I got in the car with Crystal and I said, "Hun, I now understand what it means when people use the illustration of drinking poison, hoping the other person dies. I have been drinking this. He's been living rent free in my head for the last 12 years. And he says he doesn't even remember. I need to learn to trust the Lord more and trust that he is my healer." And so how do you find healing? You have to really actually give it to him. I think I thought I gave it to him, and I probably did over and over and over again. But we reach up to the altar like a little kid trying to find cookies on the counter. And these things that are covered by the blood, we kind of reach under the blood and we pull it off and we bring it back into our identity. And he says to give it to him. And I think I had given him this hurt and this pain and this choosing to not forgive many, many times. And I would reach up there and just pull it back down. And that day was the day I realized I need to just leave it with him. And he is my healer.
Yeah.
And so I think the way that you actually find healing is actually giving it to him and leaving it with him and not continuing to take it back.
Wow. That's good. Well, Ben, this has been a lot of fun, but it's also been really good. And even I just want to thank you again for just walking us through all of those things and to see how God is continuing to refine you even within this and even now as you're looking back. It's so rich and so much wisdom. And so I just want to say thank you for your time today.
Thanks for the invitation.
Thanks again for listening. If you'd like to connect with our guest, we have made ways to do so available in the episode show notes. And if you'd like to connect with us further, support the podcast, or sign up for show updates, just go to withouthatingit.com to get started. And don't forget to subscribe to Ministry Without Hating It wherever it is that you get your podcasts so you don't miss out on our future episode releases. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.